and welcome to Millennium News Hour. I am Tanzima Naurin. In today's bulletin, we will get you detailed news from across the nation and the world. Let's begin with the headlines of the day. Biden hosted congressional leaders to discuss his agenda. Pence calls on Trump to apologize for dinner with anti-Semite. Georgia runoff, early voting for Warnock-Walker round 2. GOP-controlled Arizona County refuses to certify election. City holds vigil honors 6th date in Virginia Walmart shooting. Virginia Representative Mackay dies at 61 after cancer battle. As Mauna Loa spews lava, Hawaii officials warn residents to be ready for worst-case scenario. BidenMacros ready to talk Ukraine trade in state visit. Everything Everywhere All at Once wins at Gotham Awards. NATO renews membership vote to Ukraine, pledges arms and aid. China ready for closer partnership with Russia in energy. Australia argues against endangered barrier reef status. China launches 3 astronauts to complete space station. Qatar says worker deaths for World Cup between 400 and 500. Iran released soccer players ahead of match against US. Neymar to miss Brazil's last group game at World Cup. And Pulisic goal advances US in World Cup with 1-0 win over Iran. Now news in detail. President Joe Biden hosted congressional leaders at the White House on Tuesday to discuss his agenda for the remainder of the year, as he looks to ensure government funding and lock in more legislative wins before Democrats lose control of the House in January. The meeting comes as the government faces a December 16 shutdown if lawmakers don't agree on funding legislation to keep the lights on. Biden also wants that legislation to provide additional money for the COVID-19 response and to bolster US support for Ukraine's economy and defense against Russia's invasion. Biden has also called on Congress to step in and impose a tentative agreement between railroads and workers to avert a potentially crippling freight rail strike on December 9. "We are going to work together, I hope, to fund the government," Biden told lawmakers, emphasizing the importance of Ukraine and pandemic funding as well. Biden said the economy is at risk because of the looming rail strike, and he said he is confident that Congress could act to avert it. "There is a lot to do, including resolving the train strike," he said. A growing number of Republicans, including former Vice President Mike Pence, criticized Donald Trump on Monday for dining with a Holocaust-denying white nationalist and the rapper formerly known as Kanye West, days after launching his third campaign for the White House. Pence, in an interview, called on Trump to apologize and said the former president had demonstrated profoundly poor judgment when he met last week at his Mar-a-Lago club with West, who is now known as Ye, as well as Nick Fuentes, a far-right activist with a long history of espousing anti-Semitic and white nationalist views. The episode is serving as an early test of whether party leaders will continue to rally behind Trump as he embarks on yet another campaign for the White House after they have spent much of the last 8 years being asked to respond to the controversies he has created. Trump has said he didn't know who Fuentes was before the meeting, but he has so far refused to acknowledge or denounce the positions of either Fuentes or Ye, who has made his own series of anti-Semitic comments in recent weeks, leading to his suspension from social media platforms and the end of his ties with major companies like Adidas. In-person early voting for the last US Senate seat is underway statewide in Georgia's runoff, with Democratic Senator Raphael Warnock working to get the jump on Republican challenger Herschel Walker, who is putting less emphasis on advance balloting. After winning a state lawsuit to allow Saturday voting after Thanksgiving, Warnock spent the weekend urging his supporters not to wait until the December 6 runoff, trying to leverage his role as pastor of Martin Luther King Jr.'s church and Georgia's first black U.S. senator. Warnock concentrated his efforts Sunday among black communities in metro Atlanta. "What we are doing right now is soul work," Warnock said at Liberty International Church southwest of downtown, where he rallied supporters before leading a march to a nearby early voting site where he cast his ballot. Walker, in contrast, did not hold public events over the long Thanksgiving weekend, and in his return to the campaign Monday night in the northern Atlanta suburb of Cumming, he did not mention early voting specifically. Early in-person voting continues through Friday. Runoff election day is Tuesday of next week. Republican officials in a rural Arizona county refused Monday to certify the 2022 election despite no evidence of anything wrong with the count, a decision that was quickly challenged in court by the state's top election official. The refusal to certify by Cochise County in southeastern Arizona comes amid pressure from prominent Republicans to reject results showing Democrats winning top races. Secretary of State Katie Hobbs, a Democrat who narrowly won the race for governor, asked a judge to order county officials to canvass the election, which she said is an obligation under Arizona law. Lawyers representing a Cochise County voter and a group of retirees filed a similar lawsuit Monday, the deadline for counties to approve the official tally of votes known as the canvass. Hundreds gathered Monday in Virginia's second largest city to honor 6 people killed in a mass shooting at a Walmart, with the state's governor pledging to confront a mental health and a behavioral health crisis. Chesapeake's candlelight vigil paid tribute to a diverse group of third-shift workers ages 16 to 70 who unloaded trucks, broke down cardboard boxes, and stocked shelves in this sprawling but tight-knit community near the coast. The employees were slain Tuesday night by a store supervisor, who also died of an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound, police said. Several others were wounded. The shooter left behind a note that claimed he was harassed and pushed to the brink by a perception his phone was hacked, police said. The handgun that was used was legally purchased that morning, and he had no criminal record. U.S. Representative Donald Mackay died Monday after a battle with colorectal cancer, his office said. He was 61. Tara Rountree, Mackay's chief of staff, said in a statement late Monday, "Valiantly for years now, we have watched him fight and triumph over the secondary effects of his colorectal cancer from 2013. Tonight, he lost that battle." Mackay represented Virginia's 4th Congressional District, which includes part of Richmond and extends south to the North Carolina border. He was re-elected to a 4th term earlier this month. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi called her late colleague a tireless champion for Virginia families and a force for economic opportunity and environmental justice. Waves of orange, glowing lava and smoky ash belched and sputtered Monday from the world's largest active volcano in its first eruption in 38 years, and officials told people living on Hawaii's Big Island to be ready in the event of a worst-case scenario. The eruption of Mauna Loa wasn't immediately endangering towns, but the US Geological Survey warned the roughly 200,000 people on the Big Island that an eruption can be very dynamic and the location and advance of lava flows can change rapidly. Officials told residents to be ready to evacuate if lava flows start heading toward populated areas. The eruption began late Sunday night following a series of fairly large earthquakes, said Ken Hon, scientist in charge at the Hawaiian Volcano Observatory. The areas where lava was emerging, the volcano's summit, crater and vents along the volcano's northeast flank, are both far from homes and communities. Officials urged the public to stay away from them, given the dangers posed by lava, which is shooting 100 to 200 feet into the air out of three separate fissures roughly estimated to be 1 to 2 miles long. Volcanic gases wafting out of the vents, primarily sulfur dioxide, are also harmful. French President Emmanuel Macron is headed to Washington for the first state visit of Joe Biden's presidency, a revival of diplomatic pageantry that had been put on hold because of the COVID-19 pandemic. The Biden-Macron relationship had a choppy start. Macron briefly recalled France's ambassador to the United States last year after the White House announced a deal to sell nuclear submarines to Australia, undermining a contract for France to sell diesel-powered submarines. But the relationship has turned around with Macron emerging as one of Biden's most forward-facing European allies in the Western response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. This week's visit, it will include Oval Office talks, a glitzy dinner, a news conference and more, comes at a critical moment for both leaders. The leaders have a long agenda for their Thursday meeting at the White House, including Iran's nuclear program, China's increasing assertiveness in the Indo-Pacific and growing concerns about security and stability in Africa's Sahel region, according to US and French officials. But front and center during their Oval Office meeting will be Russia's war in Ukraine, as both Biden and Macron work to maintain economic and military support for Kiev as it tries to repel Russian forces. Everything Everywhere All at Once won Best Feature at the 32 Gotham Awards on Monday, taking one of the first major prizes of Hollywood's awards season and boosting the Oscar hopes of the anarchic indie hit of the year. Also taking an award for his work on the film was Ke Huy Quan, the Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom child star who made a lauded comeback in Everything Everywhere All at Once and won for Best Supporting Actor. This time last year, all I was hoping for was a job, said an emotional Quan who had nearly given up acting before landing his role in the film. For the first time in a very long time, I was given a second chance. The Gotham Awards, held annually at Cipriani Wall Street, serve as a downtown celebration of independent film and an unofficial kickoff of the long marathon of ceremonies, cocktail parties, and campaigning that lead up to the Academy Awards in March. Presented by the Gotham Film and Media Institute, the Gotham's last year heaped awards on Maggie Gyllenhaal's The Lost Daughter, while also with an award for Troy Kotsur starting Coda on its way to Best Picture. Now it's time for global updates. NATO allies reaffirmed their commitment to Ukraine on Tuesday, saying that the war-torn nation will one day become a member of the world's largest security alliance, and promising more help, from winter aid to artillery, to help Ukraine's beleaguered armed forces to fight off Russia. The pledges of support in Romania's capital, Bucharest, came as US Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with NATO foreign ministers Tuesday to drum up urgently needed support aimed at ensuring that Moscow fails to defeat Ukraine as it bombards vital energy infrastructure. NATO's door is open, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said before chairing the meeting. Russia does not have a veto on countries joining, he said in reference to the recent entry of North Macedonia and Montenegro into the Security Alliance. He said that Russian President Vladimir Putin will get Finland and Sweden as NATO members soon. The Nordic neighbors applied for membership in April, concerned that Russia might target them next. China is ready to forge closer partnership with Russia in energy. A state news agency quoted President Xi Jinping as saying in a letter Tuesday, potentially expanding ties that irk Washington by helping the Kremlin resist sanctions over its war on Ukraine. The announcement gave no details. It said Xi made the comment in a letter to the 4th China-Russia Energy Business Forum. China's energy-hungry economy is one of the biggest customers for Russian oil and gas. Purchases more than doubled over a year ago in October to 10.2 billion as Chinese importers took advantage of discounts offered by Moscow. China is ready to work with Russia to forge closer partnership in energy cooperation. The official Xinhua news agency cited Xi's letter as saying, energy cooperation is an important cornerstone of practical cooperation between China and Russia. Washington, Europe, and Japan cut purchases of Russian energy and expelled the country from the global banking system in retaliation for President Vladimir Putin's February 24 attack on Ukraine. She declared in a joint statement with Putin before the attack that they had a no limits friendship. The sanctions don't prohibit China, India, or other countries from buying Russian oil and gas. But President Joe Biden has warned Xi of unspecified consequences if Beijing helps Putin evade sanctions. Australia's Environment Minister said Tuesday her government will lobby against UNESCO adding the Great Barrier Reef to a list of endangered World Heritage Sites, arguing that criticisms of government inaction on climate change were outdated. Officials from the UN Cultural Agency and the International Union for Conservation of Nature released a report on Monday warning that without ambitious, rapid and sustained climate action, the world's largest coral reef is in peril. The report, which recommended shifting the Great Barrier Reef to endangered status, followed a 10-day mission in March to the famed reef system of Australia's northeast coast that was added to the World Heritage List in 1981. Environment Minister Tania Plibersek said the report was a reflection on Australia's previous Conservative government, which was voted out of office in May elections after 9 years in power. She said the new centre-left Labour Party government has already addressed several of the report's concerns, including action on climate change. We will very clearly make the point to UNESCO that there is no need to single the Great Barrier Reef out in this way, with an endangered listing, Plibersek told reporters. China launched a rocket Tuesday carrying 3 astronauts to complete construction of the country's permanent orbiting space station, during which they will expand the facility to its maximum capacity of 6 crew aboard. The crew of the Shenzhou 15 will overlap for several days with the existing 3-member crew of the Tiangong station, who will then return to Earth after their 6-month mission. Their spaceship blasted off atop a Long March 2F carrier rocket from the Jiaquan Satellite Launch Center on the edge of the Gobi Desert at 11:08 p.m. Tuesday. The 6-month mission, commanded by Fei Junlong and crewed by Deng Qingming and Zhang Lu, will be the last in the station's construction phase, according to the China Manned Space Agency. A top Qatari official involved in the country's World Cup organization has put the number of worker deaths for the tournament between 400 and 500 for the first time, a drastically higher number than any other previously offered by Doha. The comment by Hassan al-Thawadi, the Secretary General of Qatar's Supreme Committee for Delivery and Legacy, appeared to come off the cuff during an interview with British journalist Piers Morgan. It also threatened to reinvigorate criticism by human rights groups over the toll of hosting the Middle East's first World Cup for the migrant labor that built over 200 billion worth of stadiums, metro lines, and new infrastructure needed for the tournament. Now it's time for business news. Today's New York stock close price is 15,433.46. The NYSE composite is increased by 63.02 points or 0.41%. Tokyo stock close price is 28,027.84. The Nikkei 225 index is decreased by 134.99 points or 0.48%. Shanghai stock close price is 3,149.7478. The Shanghai Composite Index is increased by 71.20 points or 2.31%. Hong Kong stock close price is 18,204.68. The Hang Seng Index is increased by 906.74 points or 5.24%. Bombay stock close price is 62,681.84. The Sensex index is increased by 177.04 points or 0.28%. Now a look of today's sports stories. Iranian authorities said Tuesday that two former members of the national soccer team arrested this month in connection with nationwide protests have been released on bail. The announcement came hours before Iran was set to play the US at the World Cup in a match that authorities are heavily promoting as they grapple with nationwide protests that are well into their third month. Parviz Baromand, a retired goalkeeper, was arrested nearly 2 weeks ago on charges of participating in protests in the capital, Tehran, and was accused of damaging property. Boria Ghafori was arrested last week for insulting the national soccer team and propagandizing against the government, according to state-linked media. The judiciary announced their release Tuesday without elaborating. Neymar will miss Brazil's last group game at the World Cup because of his right ankle injury, the team doctor said Tuesday. Rodrigo Lesmer said the Brazil forward will not be able to face Cameroon in the Group G game on Friday. Neymar missed Monday's game against Switzerland when Brazil won 1-0 to secure its spot in the round of 16. Lesmer did not give a timetable on Neymar's return and did not say if the player would return at all. Brazil's coaching staff reiterated Tuesday that the Paris Saint-Germain forward was expected to play again at the tournament in Qatar. Neymar, who damaged ligaments in his ankle during Brazil's opening match against Serbia, was the only player who didn't go to Stadium 974 to watch the match against Switzerland. He stayed at the team hotel for physiotherapy treatment. Now the World Cup match reports. Christian Pulisic scored while crashing headfirst into the goalkeeper in the 38th minute, and the United States advanced to the knockout round of the World Cup with a 1-0 win over Iran on Tuesday in a politically charged rematch of their famous meeting a quarter-century ago. Marcus Rashford and Phil Foden both scored Tuesday to put England into the last 16 of the World Cup with a 3-0 victory over Wales. The Senegal captain scored the winning goal in the 2-1 victory over Ecuador on Tuesday, putting his team into the round of 16 at the World Cup despite the absence of the injured Sadio Mane, the team's best player and one of the best strikers in the world. Netherlands beats host Qatar 2-0 to advance at World Cup, while the Qataris, who were already eliminated, became the first host to lose all three of its group matches at the World Cup. Let's have a look on today's weather chart. That's all in today's news. Keep watching Millennium News 24 for latest updates. Millennium TV USA and Millennium News 24 network is transmitted and available to be watched free for all at TVs such as Sony, Samsung, LG, Roku TV, Amazon TV and Apple TV. And also in all European countries and Australia available with the Sky Network, Worldwide Jadoo TV, Radiant IPTV, Worldwide Jago BD Network and Horizon Satellite globally. Stay connected with us for all types of informative and entertainment program. Thank you.